talk to you about seeking God for your own birth story.
Y'all, I'm geeking with all the technology that I have. I legit walked out the house without my cameras and all the things. So I was not able to fully document the beginning of my labor and delivery, but we are in active labor. I sure did around that 6.5 centimeter, 90 centimeter, not 6.5 centimeters, 90% effaced. Got that epidural, and we blessed the Lord. So now we just wait. It's rolling pretty quickly. We got here around, my water broke around 4:30. I was 5 centimeters when we got here. Wasn't feeling anything until after the cervix check. Got admitted. Within an hour, I was 6.5, 90% effaced. And I was doing my best to breathe through them contractions, but they were coming every minute. Like, there was no downtime. Called for the epidural, came within like 15 minutes. And now it is, what time is it? It's 10:20. We're waiting. The contractions on the screen are wild. I can't imagine what that's like to go all the way. I won't find out this pregnancy, so we're just chilling. I'm trying to take a nap, but I'm too, I can't nap. It's just such a surreal moment. Me and my husband were both very calm, very shocked at how calm we were. I was calm up until them, I got the epidural around 8:15. By 8:30, I was good. But them contractions from, within the 7 to 8, yeah, no. It's not for me. So now we just wait. Baby is low. Water is gushing still. Contractions are coming in hot and heavy. Heart rate's good. Blood pressure's good. My husband's asleep. We're trying to at least close his eyes. And he need to get all the sleep he can because he gonna be up with the baby while I take a nap. But all right, so I'll check back in after the baby or as we're preparing to push. Holla.
I've been trying to record this video on my birth story for a while. 20 weeks postpartum with a baby that's very active. She is now scooting, rolling, talking. It's long overdue. You can listen to testimonies and stories of what God has done for other people, but your story will be unique to you. I was not a candidate for home birth based off of what happened once I went into labor. My pregnancy was smooth until 24 weeks. I was sent to a maternal fetal medicine doctor to get further observation because during the anatomy scan, my baby had elevated fluid in her kidneys. Also, during that time, they felt like they saw an abnormality with her heart, which are two soft markers for Down syndrome. We did the blood test to rule out some things prior to the anatomy scan. I had peace of mind to know in that moment that it wasn't Down syndrome, but they just wanted to make sure. It's better to be sure so that you have a proper plan in place when the baby gets here if they need extra care and attention and how to give them a better quality of life. I go into the maternal fetal medicine appointment. Baby's fine. They don't see the issue with her kidneys. They don't see the issue with her heart, but I have elevated amniotic fluid. At the time, I hadn't done gestational diabetes testing. They wanted to make sure I didn't have gestational diabetes. Didn't have that. I had to go every week to be observed because you can potentially go into preterm labor. It can cause prolapse, placenta abruption. I was given the option at the first appointment to do an amniocentesis where they take a small needle and test the amniotic fluid to make sure baby doesn't have a fetal abnormality. I went every 4 weeks for about 6 weeks. And then they spaced it out between 2 weeks. And then that last appointment was 4 weeks before being cleared at 35 weeks. And by the grace of God, my fluid levels resolved. And I found out later that sometimes during the second trimester, your fluid levels peak. And I kind of just got caught in that transition where my fluids levels actually started to bounce up and down. I went the highest at moderate high, almost severe. And the doctor told me when we got cleared at 35 weeks, that baby was just giving us some razzle dazzle, okay? Because usually when a person goes that high, they don't come back down. We know it was the grace of God. And I remember going back for the second appointment and my fluid levels at this appointment was good. And he comes in and he's like, what did you do differently? And I was like, prayed. because that's the only thing I did. He said it could be one of those things where you have 3 different variables that triggered at the same time and they may not be related. It gave me peace of mind to know my baby was okay. I got to see her ultrasounds, got to get 3D pictures, which them 3D pictures are real spot on. Baby looks exactly like what them 3D pictures said she was going to look like. And I got cleared at 35 weeks, went into labor at 38 weeks and 4 days. That morning, my husband and I went to the gym. We went that Saturday before he went to work. I wanted to jump rope, but in my mind, I'm like, yo, I hope this jump rope don't put me into labor. And I was extra tired that day. I had been having false contractions all week. Now I know was early labor. I remember jump roping. My husband at some point is like, okay, enough is enough. I had to sit down. All jokes aside, I don't want to work out today, but I am. I'm going to modify it and just wing it at this point in a minute. Since I've jump rope, we're going to do it. Not doing a workout plan, just moving my body, little cardio, lower body. I'm in the home stretch, so I won't stress myself out. Water break. Pulled out my other brewmate, which the actual lid to this broke, and it incorporated the purple and blue around the ring, but they no longer make this colorway, so I had to get just the plain top. I'm having an intense contraction. So breathe through it before work. Maybe that will make this contraction lighten up. So I can't jump rope anymore, according to my husband. Boo! I feel like I'm at the point in pregnancy where I'm just existing. So mobility, I'm gonna skip hamstrings and go do cardio and then see how I feel. Now, this man said he was downstairs doing cardio, and I do not see a purple shirt. There it goes. I have mentally checked out of working out. So now I'll just follow him around like a little puppy dog. They got safety mechanism. There you go. Y'all happy? I'm not gonna fall. Stretch the back. We do get to do hamstrings. Lovely. I'm not doing no 170 though. 70 might be too easy. 26. I'm not getting to failure. Under 30, to go up in weight. I'm gonna go up to 100. I'm gonna take a break for a second. Jesus is king. All right, let's see. It is. So much for following him around. He'll be over here in a second. Yeah, I'm trying to follow you around and you added stuff that wasn't included. At least I don't have to cook. Because I don't have to cook. You don't like attention. I love it. Gosh, I'm out of breath thinking about you running. Should I do it? I don't think I'll run. I'll walk fast though. Yeah, no, I don't even want to do that. It's all I got. It's all I got. All right, that was 10 minutes to the glute machine. It's already on 120. So let's see how long it takes me to get to failure. I am out of breath, that's why. I don't know if I'm hitting failure or if it's just burning. And that's what I'm working through. But I'm also feeling this in my quad. Like, why? It's a glute coaster. What am I doing wrong? But I guess this is secondary muscle. We're tapping out. We're tapping out. We're tapping out. Just like that. The workout has come to an end. We're done. And he's still going. In that video, you see that I'm exhausted. I'm jump roping, doing my best, but I have no energy. I even take a break to lean into the contraction. That night, around 3 a.m, I feel uncomfortable. I get up to pee, go in the living room, do some ball exercises, do some stretches. I'm uncomfortable. These are starting to get real. You feel me? So I'm doing the exercises. It's like 4 o'clock for about an hour. I get in bed, read my Kindle. I'm reading a book called Faith-Filled Birth about the different ways that you can birth. Traditionally, this book was focused on like the unmedicated route. I wasn't even going to gaslight myself, put the needle in my back. I had a plan in place to get the epidural. We took a birthing class with statistics show that when you take a birthing class, you reduce your risk of intervention because you're educated. We took a 4-week birthing class. I had a birthing plan, which was to come out the hospital alive with a healthy baby. It was very loose. I know my pain tolerance is not that great, so I had every intention on getting an epidural. I had every intention on having a hospital birth. I had every intention on doing what was necessary. Now, looking back at that piece of paper, I realized I accomplished everything on my list, which is, again, the grace of God. I'm in the bed, laying there, reading my Kindle, 4:36. I shift to my right. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to go to sleep. The pain has dissipated. As soon as I shift, I feel a thump. My eyes wide and water starts gushing out. I jump up, oh my gosh, my water just broke. I call my mom. I'm like, my water just broke. I'm telling my husband, who's knocked out. He had just gotten home around midnight from work. By the time he registers that my water broke, I was already up, clothes on, diaper on the phone with the nurse to figure out what they wanted me to do. Because I had gone through that period where I was high risk and not 39 weeks, I had a feeling that they were going to call me into the hospital, but I didn't want to get to the hospital and they said, go home. Ain't nobody got time for that. Cause we lived about 30 minutes on a trafficy day, 30 to 40 minutes. Because it was 4:00 in the morning, there was no traffic. Hallelujah. God heard my prayers. Thank God I had my bag packed since about 32 weeks. Okay. Maybe 36. I think I actually packed it at 36 weeks. Grabbed the car seat, didn't have time to grab my camera. So the video you saw at the beginning is the only clip we have because it went so fast. I was not prepared mentally to record. The concept of documenting that process was a cute idea, but it did not happen. We get halfway there. The nurse is like, I'm going to call you back. I'm like, babe, let's go. We book it. Get there. Wait in the waiting room. They bring me back to triage. They have to check my cervix. And lo and behold, your girl was 5 centimeters dilated. Baby's head was low. They had to move around the baby to check my cervix. So they're like, you're not going home. You're getting admitted. You're having this baby today on Mother's Day. Just me and my husband. After they checked my cervix, the contractions started to get crazy. I got a saline lock in because I wanted to be mobile. Up until we got into the room, that's when I started hitting the ground. Every time the contractions was hitting, they were trying. Husband was trying to squeeze. We're trying to do all the birthing things. The nurse was helping. The doctor came and it was like, the epidural's a tool. I said, call the man and put the needle in my back. Get in the room around 7. Doctor checks me at 8. I'm 6.5 centimeters, 90% efface. Get the epidural at 8:30. By 10 o'clock, it's go time. Took a birthing class and still didn't understand the stages of labor. I didn't know I was going to be pushing for 4 hours. And I started bleeding profusely. Like I was tearing so bad. Baby was sunny side up and my pelvic was very small. I thank God for my husband because he was advocating for me, asking, is this normal? At one point, the doctor left. It was just the nurse and I was bleeding so bad the doctor had to come back and they had to call other nurses in to get baseline for how much I was bleeding. And I'm oblivious. I'm just trying to lean into contractions, push when they tell me that I've been pushing nonstop, no breaks for 4 hours. Around the 3:30 mark, nurses come in to weigh the blood. I pull up for a contraction, see the blood on accident. The nurse turned the wrong way. I start freaking out. Like, I don't want to die. I can't do this. Turned off the worship music. Janae was in her flesh. The doctor stands over me, calls my name, Janae, look at me. You will not be a statistic. If I thought this was an emergency, I would have been called it. I said, okay, God, listen me more. Let's get this baby out in 4 contractions. Got her out in 3. Baby was sunny side up. That's why we were in pain. You feel me? That's why we were struggling. The contractions were unbearable. Baby was sunny side up. Here comes the man of the hour who was come on, babe. The man of the hour will be back to share his story. But what's crazy is how anticlimactic the experience was because it was just me, my husband, the nurse, and the doctor. I expected this grand thing. It turns out I was laboring as if I had Pitocin. So I just want to know from your experience, what was it like when I was giving birth? Because I was bleeding out and you were very calm under pressure. I would have saw the blood and freaked out like I did. but you were seeing it the whole time. Like, what was that experience for you?
I wouldn't say it was traumatized. It was just weird to see that. I know it didn't look normal to me. I was asking the doctor, is this normal?
You kept asking the nurse, the doctor, and the doctor's like, it's not normal, but it's more blood than they wanted to see.
Yeah, it was just a little too much.
Because every time I pushed, were you seeing blood?
The harder you push, the more blood came out. The towels were drenched. Thank God you didn't go through
a hemorrhage. I didn't have to get a blood transfusion. I was 200 milliliters away from needing a blood transfusion, which we thank God, which is why I wasn't a candidate for home birth, because it would have potentially been fatal due to the positioning of the baby. And because we did MFM and we're getting ultrasounds every week, I was supposed to get an ultrasound at 40 weeks, but I went into labor at 38 weeks. They were going off the notes of the MFM. And when I think back to the baby was head down, but she was always on her side. So instead of turning down, she turned up and gave me a run for my money when it came to the delivery. So in total, it was about 10 hours from water breaking to pushing out the baby. 4 of that was pushing. And I was able to avoid getting a blood transfusion. I did, however, had to get about 45 stitches. I had a 2nd-degree tear, and I tore bilaterally, intervaginally. Didn't even know that was a thing. I did end up getting an iron transfusion, and had to get a vag pack. Think about a mile-long tampon that they stuff inside of you, because your insides are like Jell-O. So the more stitches, the more bleeding. You saw the baby come out.
Yes, it was beautiful. It didn't look real at first. We're parents.
I disassociated. It took me over a minute to touch her. I felt the weight of the baby. I was traumatized. Like, that was a traumatic experience. But I remember poking her like, is this my baby? Is this real? And she's just looking at me with her little bright eyes like, it's me. I'm here.
God is very intentional too, because he showed me a dream through struggling to give.
That's the next point I wanted to hit on. Let's move locations quickly. The dreams we had, we both had separate dreams.
Oh, I didn't know you had a dream too.
Well, so Gene is talking about the Lord led him to fast leading up to my delivery. Didn't know that.
That's what I was fasting for. In the dream, there was a struggle with you giving birth. You can see the tussle, and it was taking time for the baby to come. Then our baby finally came, and then we was happy and everything. And that's what I saw in the dream. Thank God.
It's interesting. That's the dream he had, because I had a dream that week also that people had my baby. I was like, where's my baby? I needed to get my baby. But the Lord gave my husband the wisdom to not reveal that until after we got home from the hospital, because it would have scared me and put me on alert. And I just thank God for his faithfulness. He's been speaking to us through dreams throughout the entire pregnancy, labor, and delivery process. I remember the week that I had baby, one of the mothers of the church called me abruptly, said in her prayer time, the Lord highlighted me and that God was going to single-handedly deliver the baby, and he was going to use the medical staff, but God would be in the room handpicking the people needed. My mother was supposed to be in town, but she had a feeling that baby was going to come earlier than expected. And I thank God the Lord gave my husband that dream so that we could see God's hand in the midst of it. Yes. Even though we had dreams prior to baby's arrival that let us know that we would be having a little girl. Yeah. My husband had 3 dreams back to back of a baby girl. I had peers reach out over the first year of our marriage saying that they came to visit me in dreams and I had a little girl, or they saw me out and about with a little girl. And it just continues to show God's faithfulness. I remember I had a prayer session where I was going through some inner healing and deliverance. They prophesied they saw a little girl and her destiny. So we know how to steward who she is. And that's why the things that we're encountering now with her voice, like she has already discovered her voice, and just stewarding that goes back to the faithfulness of God and why it's imperative that we seek God for our story and lean into what he wants in our lives, because I wouldn't have been a great candidate for home birth. It would have potentially been fatal, but God was faithful enough to show us through dreams that everything was going to be okay. And you're talking about somebody who didn't necessarily desire marriage and children. So this is all the grace of God bringing it together. We just celebrated 2 years of marriage. We believed we we were supposed to wait a year before having a baby. And even before we conceived, we were like,
Let's wait another
do we
year.
wait another year?
Wait
But
for
we
peace.
wanted to be in the peace and timing of God. We thank God we waited that year. We were able to kind of iron out some kinks, but the kinks don't necessarily stop. Like now you have to learn how to love one another, show up for one another while raising a kid in the way that they should go so that they don't depart from the faith. And I just thank God for my husband because he has shown me that when things get tough, he can remain calm under pressure. I, however, am not that fortunate. I don't always remain calm, but I'm learning. That's where iron sharpens iron. Even with the next child, we've had several dreams. I remember I had a dream before I got, well, let's pause because I would like to just be two and done. Oh, it was so traumatic for me. I didn't swell up during pregnancy, but after I swole up for 2 to 3 weeks because they had to fill me with Pitocin, blood clotting medicine, all the things to prevent me from bleeding.
I've been upset with our finances, job hunting. Should we talk about that too?
Yeah, we can do another video for that. The faithfulness of God. I had a dream before we got pregnant. I was pregnant and I was nervous about the labor process, but now we're on the other side of it. Labor wasn't what I expected, but I didn't have any expectations. I thank God that I'm alive to tell my story. In the dream, which is why I concealed my pregnancy for as long as I did, just for peace of mind until the blessing really was too large to contain because that belly was taking over my frame, okay? Mm-hmm. But I remember that dream, I was about 8 to 9 months pregnant, standing over a calendar. Her birthday was around our birthdays. Mm-hmm. I knew it was a little girl. And so in that dream, I was able to conceal my pregnancy up until the last few weeks, which is why I didn't announce publicly until about the 3rd trimester, and also went high risk. And so wanted to protect that and keep that in a close knit community of people that I knew would pray. Pregnancy was smooth up until like that high risk moment. And we were able to work it out so you could attend those appointments with me. And it was very reassuring. And now baby's here and we had her on Mother's Day, which is another God wink. The same year that her birthday will fall on Mother's Day, my birthday will fall on Father's Day. So it's kind of cool that I have to share my day with you, but she'll have to share her day with me. I had 6 OBGYNs. We rotated through all 6 during the trimester phases of going in and getting monitored because any of the 6 could be on call. I remember walking with a friend through a very hard moment with her firstborn, and for her secondborn, she decided to go with this clinic, but at the time I didn't know this was the clinic. I remember her talking about the doctor, highly sought after. By the time I went to established care, I wasn't going with this clinic initially. There was another facility peers had highly recommended, but I started to feel like pushback, and I had a scare around the 6-week mark that I miscarried, and they wouldn't talk to me over the phone on the nurse's line to give me insight on what I should do. I wasn't a patient, and they said it was a liability, and that was a complete turnoff. And I remember I had established care with this clinic, and I called their nurse's line and talked to a doctor, and they were like, we're going to get you in tomorrow. First thing, I was able to get checked. Everything was okay. And I decided to stay at this clinic to deliver my baby. And it turns out that the doctor that my friend highly raved about was the doctor that ended up delivering my baby. I truly believe God put her there for such a time as this. And what's cool about that moment is there was a doctor I saw more frequently out of the 6. I had saw her that Friday for my 38 and 2 days. And I remember us leaving, and I'm like, oh, I'll see you for 40, because they had scheduled me to do an ultrasound just to make sure everything was okay. And she was like, maybe I'll see you in the hospital. I went into labor 2 days later, and she was the doctor on call the next day. We laughed and thought it was a funny moment. She called it. I hope this encourages you to seek God for your own story, considering my pregnancy was not textbook. I didn't have morning sickness. It was anticlimactic, just really tired. 2nd trimester was wonderful outside of the extra amniotic fluid I had to be monitored for. I was still able to work out. I was still going out, active, hanging out with friends, living in community. And then I went into labor 2 weeks early than what they say first time moms go into labor for. So you can read the books, you can educate yourself. I recommend you taking the birthing class. You can watch the stories on YouTube for inspiration, but let it be a prayer point that you pray for God to give you the story that he has for you. Had I not gotten the epidural, it could have been a real emergency situation. And the doctor told me that the way I tore, there's no way she could have done it without an operating room. But because I had an epidural, she was able to do what she needed to do to stop the bleeding. My baby will be 5 months this month. In theory, I'm still healing. There's parts of me still recovering. It was a brutal time. It took me 5 months to really process through this, and struggled with PPD and postpartum, some parts of postpartum anxiety, and had to move to be closer to family to get the support that I needed. I hope this encourages you to seek God for your own story, to lean into what God is saying about you. May this be an encouragement to know God for yourself, for what he wants to do for you. And I thank God that God was in the midst of all of this, that he used the dreams to remind us of his promise when we were going through the tough moments within the pregnancy of being high risk, that he used people to call and to give encouragement and to remind me of his promises. Like the amount of people who called me and God placed me on their hearts, and how things aligned when I got certain prognoses, and just what God ended up doing. And what's even fascinating is I feel like every phase I had to go through a test. That when baby was born, she was born with a birthmark, some discoloration, a sacral dimple, and a skin tag, which are signs of spinal bifida. We had to get that ultrasound and made sure everything's okay. And by the grace of God, she is good. She is surpassing all her milestone developments. Baby can talk, okay? She says hey and hi. There's not a dull moment with my little girl. And due to the extent of bleeding, breast milk got hindered by some time. So she started combo feeding, started getting a bottle preference. I tried to latch her for about 7 weeks until I mentally couldn't do it anymore. She gets breast milk through a bottle and 1 bottle of formula a day to not stress myself out, because I am making just enough. Thank you guys for rocking with me. I'm back, ready to make more content. Hopefully you can see more content with me and my husband. It has been an interesting 2 years since I got married, and it's even more fascinating now that baby is here, okay? We're keeping the hair in a low maintenance style, praying we avoid postpartum shedding. So far, so good at 5 months. If you have any questions, comments, want to chat some things through, put it in the chat and I'll be back. Until next time, my name is Janae Carly. My goal is to create content around faith, fitness, and intentional living so that we can make intentional steps on a daily basis. Until next time, holla.